Welcome back to the Manage to Win podcast. I'm really excited about today's podcast. It's with Tim Redmond, Redmond Growth Consulting. He's had some phenomenal success. But first, please don't forget our sponsor, Habitly.com. Great soft skills training. If you want your people to be great at what they do, even what Tim is recommending you do, you need good soft skills, and you need it individually and you need it as a team. Habitly.com. Check it out. Tim has grown companies phenomenally, and he does it in simple ways. He basically helps leaders change their look. And we're not talking about their outside look. We're talking about how they look at things so they can really make change in their business and really grow them as individuals and their bottom line. Is that intriguing enough? Let's dive in. Tim, on your sheet that was sent to me, you have a quote from a guy who said he had 5 years of zero growth, followed by a year of negative growth, which is a nice way to say they lost money or I don't know what it was. Things went backwards.
Right.
And then the business increased 43% in year one working with you and 94% in the following year. That's really a big turnaround. I'm a small business guy. What did you do? What did you tinker with that made that happen?
Well, there's several things here on this, David, and it's really important. The first thing I had to work on was how, let me just say, I had to improve his looks. Okay. So it wasn't like he was ugly, but it's improving his looks. It's not how he looked to others or how he looked in the mirror, but how he looked at what he was looking at. And he was defeated on the inside. He sat down on the inside. So we got him to stand up. We got him to put his heart into it. When your business is demanding a full hard effort, a full ass effort, a half ass effort won't work. So
yeah.
A lot of people get bored with their businesses, or they get fatigued with it, or the reward system isn't high enough. And so we just had to get them back in the game. And then we just followed a very simple marketing strategy, starting with his past customers. I mean, it's a huge riches in every business here with past customers. Now, I remember talking to a guy, he's a roofer, and one and done roofer. How big is your mailing list, or how big is your customer list? Oh, it's like between $9,000 and $10,000. I said, when's the last time you sent a text or an email to any of them? And he's like approximately never. It's like, I said, just keep involved, maybe once a month, even just. Here's the latest thing that happened. We saved this much money. We just tell a good story about it. And people are moving every 3, 5, 7 years. Boom, they get a new roof coming. Come on. There's no reason that you shouldn't have half your business repeat business, waiting for them to call you. So, it's that kind of thing. But we got his full heart into it, and then we started calling his past customers, and then we had what we call a Dream 100 list that we compiled and really getting after. And we just started making phone calls, and it's amazing. One guy said, "Ask and you shall receive," and so we just started asking, and that was. I don't want to oversimplify it, but that's really as simple as it was.
Well, what is the Dream 100? Talk to me about that.
Dream 100, there's a great book out, David, it's written by Chet Holmes, like a year before he died, unfortunately. But he talked about the ultimate sales machine, creating the ultimate sales machine.
Yeah.
And in that, he talked about the Dream 100, and it's how he took over and won Charlie Munger, who has been the Wizard of Omaha's partner, and he's multi-billionaire, and he turned around a magazine that Charlie had, because he instead of contacting 20,000 businesses that could put an ad in there, he got a list of 100 of the highest potential customers that he would want. He found them by looking at all the other trade magazines, trade pubs, that who's advertising in those things. And he just went after, he got it down to about 169 people and ended up selling the dickens out of that. And he just had several years of doubling revenues every year just by that. And so we help clients of all kinds. We work with a lot of contractors, home builders, electricians, plumbers, HVAC, but virtually every kind of business that we work with. In the Dream 100, we help them identify perfect list of people that should be referring business their way, or perfect customers that they ought to be calling on.
And then who makes those calls?
Well, we have a coaching service that we can do calls for them, but we encourage them to make some of the calls, or to have a staff person make those calls. And we have seen when people work the Dream 100, it works 100, not 99%. It works 100% of the time for the people that actually work the system. It is foolproof. It's like, you're an idiot if you don't do this. I know that sounds really simple. It's just, it's like narrowing down who you ought to be calling on and spending most of your time with those, instead of just spreading, throwing your seed, just the wind, and hopefully somebody will pick you up. He talks about in this book, a guy that dropped 20,000 mailers, this great offer, and he got 0 responses, 0 sales on it. And so he's frustrated. He goes, well, what about, and it was a computer company. So Chet was using this type of Dream 100. He said, well, who's the special kind of clients? Well, it was like clients that had more than 10 computers, but less than 50. And they needed an IT person, but couldn't afford a full-time IT person. And so he just narrowed down a list. This guy was calling, like going after 20,000. He narrowed down the list to about 400, and then narrowed that down further and just focused on those, and just sales just boom, just exploded.
All right. So I understand exactly what you're talking about, but let's talk about some of these people that that they can grasp the concept.
Right.
But they may be able to do okay on the calls, but they have trouble finding the time. And so they want to have a staff member make the calls. Is part of your service to have a coach work with that staff member, work up the script, role play with them. And this is really important in my book. Really role play with them, listen in on calls, do the things that you need a sales manager to do, at least to get it, running.
Otherwise it won't go. Here's the biggest problem.
Exactly.
The biggest problem when we make calls is we don't have enough energy. Okay. People are already in a negative mindset. They're ready to say no to anything that comes across their face. And so, it's the most dominant state dominates, right?
Yeah.
So it's about state management, your emotional state management. And so it's like putting energy in there, and then we help them write out the script, and we have them practice it out loud 25 times. And then they practice with us. And then we actually will give them some best practice calls. We'll make some of the calls and says, here's what it sounds like, and record those, and they have those to listen to. And then we'll just work with them. And it's, even if you've got somebody that's got a deadpan, he's got a personality of a, well, I don't want to pick on any profession, but he's about as excited as a librarian, we'll just say,
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if they come in there with the energy, and they get, it's not a perfect script. It's just getting them it's a pattern interrupt kind of process with a script, and identifying a problem that they have, and say, we could, the next step is like super easy, and we'll give you this solution during this. And boom, and make the next step, not 2 hours, make the next step a 10-minute call. Can you do that? Make the next step super easy. And this is what we do all day long. A lot of companies are, they get comfortable with the level of sales, but they don't push it. I just talked to one guy. He's got $8.5 million business. He's an architect, and he wants to grow it to 10 million, but his net profits is 8.8%, and so it's like, well, let's first of all, before you start growing your business, let's grow your profits to between 15 and 20%, otherwise you just have a lot of busy activity, not making the profit, so
Yeah.
but it's going through this process, and we're going to help him learn to sell differently.
All right. Well, I want to peel back the onion a little bit. So
yeah, please.
Because I've been selling for 50 years. I started when I was 15 or 16, 15.
That's
16.
Awesome. That's great.
And so I'm going to call somebody, and I'm thinking of somebody calling me today. I rarely pick up the phone that I don't want to talk to anybody that I don't recognize the number. But let's handle the easier ones, the lower hanging fruit, existing customer base that never got the call, like the roofer you brought up. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I call that customer to touch base, what's your recommended? How am I going to get even a minute with that person, even though they're a past client? What am I going to say that's of value to them, that's going to make them want to talk to me even for a moment and try to consider my next request that's 10 minutes?
I think if you come on there with some energy, which is really important, and not overly salesy, how you doing today? And it's like, who are you? Get the heck out of here. It's not that, but it's just coming in there with a real positive energy. And you want to ask a question that gets them thinking about a possible pain. Like with a roofer here is, hey, we are checking out your neighborhood. We've had a number of roofs in your neighborhood really messed up, and we just wanted to give you a free inspection, not cost you anything. Can we swing by, and just take a look at your roof? And it's the best thing that you can do, just to make or whatever you want to try to create and uncover a need and make the next step super easy to go with.
I'm with you. I think on the roofer, I would probably lean a little bit more towards, like, because we have roof here, we have concrete tiles, and we had somebody come up and do that inspection and cleaning and some stuff. And I probably would lean more towards, hey, we're having a lot of clients call us because they didn't do the regular maintenance, and we don't show that you've done any of that. And now, they've got broken tiles, they've got a leak, and a ceiling just collapsed or whatever it is. So can we just, like you say, you're a past client. Can we just come and do a free inspection? We just want to make sure you're okay. No obligation. Just want to check in.
Yeah. The idea is you try to create a need or a problem and just say, you can get this problem solved. In your case, now you have a very, it may be common in your area, but it's more rare than it is common, that type of roof that you have, so you have that. But if I have a list of my clients, I would already know that tile roof.
Yeah. That's just it.
I'd drill down on that here, but it's, the key is that you want to come in with energy, and you want to come in to say, hey, we have a problem with people with your kind of roof in your neighborhood or your type of roof, whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have a lot more problems than they thought. Can we swing by and actually just take a look at yours and make sure you're in good shape? Just an ounce of prevention is worth way more than a pound of cure. So
yeah. So then let me go deeper. I'm going to peel back the onion a little bit more.
Yeah.
So do you work with their team then on training those inspectors that go out, so they're presenting themselves well in a non-threatening way? They're not like introverts where they're barely talking to the person, but once again, they're not trying to be too effervescent where they're scaring them away, but they can build a relationship. And
so we
do you train them?
We work with people, whatever their need is. We're a growth company. Yeah. And so whatever is standing in the way of growth, we try to identify that. And there's huge amounts of call reluctance. There's a huge amount of knock reluctance, and so we, there's working with that. So you make it very simple and you don't make the client make a big decision. You don't
I think that's a
cost
biggie.
them anything. Go ahead.
I think that's a biggie. I think what you said right there, you're not pushing for a big decision out of the chute.
It's got to be a small decision, but it's like you're talking about an ounce of prevention. We've had some neighbors of yours have some real issues. You're in the same neighborhood. You may have a brand new roof. You're calling somebody brand new, but if it's over 5 years old, you definitely want to have somebody to inspect it. We're in your neighborhood. We'll be in there next Tuesday, and I'm just wondering what time in the afternoon works for you for me to swing by. Boom, boom. Yeah. So you just people try to make this process so difficult because their brain has got such a reluctance or a fear of rejection that the brain will manufacture ways of keeping you busy with doing everything except growing your business. That's the thing is, an entrepreneur needs to be a little bit of a stoic, just, be numb and dumb and make the calls, or knock on the doors. And if you can't do that, then you're more in love with your fear than you are with your wallet, or you hire somebody that, I had a horrible fear myself. And I picked myself up and threw myself into the next call and made hundreds of calls, but I hired a whole team. I mean, we got our first 100 clients purely from cold calling, David. I mean, the hardest way you can get a client, just boom, is like anywhere from 50 to 100 calls just to book an appointment for the first 10-minute meeting. It's tough, but we did it. Now we're using a lot of Facebook. We got a lot of good word of mouth recommendations, a lot of that stuff going on. So our SEO.
Well, I also like what you alluded to, and I hope the audience picked up on it.
Please.
That when you're going to make it that first decision easy, like a free inspection, that you need to geographically plot where you're making those calls. So the person actually is in the neighborhood. They're not going to this house and then another one that's 10 miles away and then another one that's 5 miles in another direction. Yeah, I think I heard it first from Zig Ziglar many years ago. You work a commercial block. You go into an office building and work a building. And then when you're done with that building, go to another building just to save time and make it as efficient and effective as possible.
He got that idea from me. He doesn't give me any credit for it, but no, he never. Actually, I did talk to Zig Ziglar one time. We were in the green room. We were both talking at this one event out in Hawaii, and I remember him just talking, just Tim, good to meet you. How he longs out, that accent, and he said, "Now, are you a big shot, Tim?" I go, "No, I'm not a big shot." He goes, "Well, you know what a big shot is? It's a little shot that keeps shooting." I said, "Well, I'm one of those, so maybe I am a big shot." I've been using that line like forever. That's my one. But nothing like having to follow Zig Ziglar in the lineup here. That was cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, that's a
lot of fun.
The line that I quote from him the most is when people say to be honest. And I point out that Zig suggested you never say to be honest because it means you weren't honest somewhere else in the conversation. You say to be candid.
To be candid, yeah.
You say to be candid instead. And I get more people get a chuckle out of that, and they're going, "Wow, that makes a lot of sense. I got to change that." And then we'll talk for a little bit longer, and then they will either shift and say to be candid because it's like a filler comment,
right?
Or they'll say to be honest, and they'll stop themselves and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm supposed to say candid."
Talking out loud, yeah. So it's we have a lot of these phrases that when you break it down, it really doesn't make as much sense. But anyway, really good.
Let me go back. In the beginning, you talked about that you had to give the guy a new look, and it wasn't how he looked on the outside; it was where he was focusing his attention in the business.
Yeah.
Would you please expand upon that, maybe with some more examples or whatever? Because
sure.
I think that's really important for people.
Sure. Yeah. Going through this pandemic, we had a number of construction companies. We work with contractors, so had a number of construction companies. Many of them were completely shut down. We had a lot of plumbers, electricians. Many of them sat down because they just saw everybody around them just panicking, and they go, "Well, what's the use?" And so I remember getting in front of just getting a cell phone out here, and just getting a video out there and just say, get off your butts and get after it. Knock on these doors here. Don't sit down on the outside, on the inside, because everybody else around you are sitting down. Yeah. It's like, it's improving your looks is really improving the story you're telling yourself. You want to change your attitude and you want to change your mindset. Well, what is that? It's really changing the story that you're saying about yourself and your business. Oh gosh, I mean, there's just no decent customers out there. There's nobody that wants to work, no employees out there. And your brain begins to try to solve towards that. It's like horrible, And so, what comes out of your mouth begins to color how you look, and however you look at something, that's what it becomes. Is it impossible? It becomes impossible. You begin to solve towards that. I know it's like this, voodoo, mind science, law of attraction. No, there's a lot of real validity to that. A lot of us, it's like we're reacting instead of acting upon. We're victimized. We're conforming to the world around us instead of transforming. And so you have to ask yourself, what am I saying to myself about this challenge? Am I bigger than it? Am I capable? Is it bigger than me? Am I incapable? Is it possible? Is it impossible? And you can actually take a look outside yourself and look at yourself and says, how am I thinking, responding to this challenge here? Is it an opportunity to learn and try new things, or what's the use anyways? Because if it's a what's the use anyways, you're just going to fold your arms and just, I guess I'll just wait this out. And that's what many clients did. We had, they're not all happy success stories here, because we work with human beings, but we had so many guys that had their record month was April of 2020. I mean, it's just outrageous because they just got after it. When everybody was shut down, they sent out emails. It was, hey, we're protected. We got all the right equipment. You're going to be safe. We're very sanitized. Boom, boom, boom. Everybody's afraid of their own shadow. And so, I remember one guy, he was doing, when we ran into me, it was about $100,000, but he had got up to about $250,000 or so. And he just went hog wild and just followed what we told him to do. Just get after your customers, double up your marketing. And they closed April like it was like near 500,000. They're now hitting between $800,000 and $900,000 a month now. They've done really well. But they had more than doubled the revenue in that month that other people were shutting down and hiding behind the excuse.
Well, it's interesting. You said it earlier, fear. And the best lies contain a piece of truth, partial truth, and then twisted. And the media does it. Certain marketers do it. Politicians do it. But we do it to ourselves because we've got, one guy called it the negativity committee in our brain that beats us up. It's not one voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And can you talk about that a little bit more? So you're just like, whether you're all the way to overwhelmed or you're just hesitant, risk adverse, activity adverse,
right?
Because you're afraid. What are some steps to kind of? And by the way, I had a guy whose podcast just came out this week when we're recording this. Matt Tenney. He teaches mindfulness. And that was an interesting thing to not say, I don't know about you. I grew up where, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. And we didn't deal with emotions in my family. We didn't talk through controversy. So I was the end of the spectrum where, it's like you just said, no, I'm not going to feel that way, Paul. You didn't deal with stuff versus the other end where you're acting it out and there's all kinds of craziness going on.
They reacted, right? Yeah.
But talk to me about this fear piece in your way that you help these people kind of right the ship, because they're on tilt.
Right. So there's a couple of different elements of that. First of all, you said, about the committee in your mind, and really committees many times are a negation of leadership. So that's kind of think about that for a little bit. The battle in the mind is, first of all, becoming aware that that's the story you're telling yourself. Be aware of the story you're telling yourself, because your mind, and when you hear words, you're going to align yourself around that to make sure that actually comes to pass. So that works towards the negative and works towards the positive. And so, it's like the first thing you want to really take a look at here is, what story are you telling?
Yeah.
And is that story serving you or not serving you? And when you have a bunch of average Joes, and if your name is Joe, I'm sorry, but average Bobs or Franks or average Tims or whatever, they're not going to challenge you. They'll challenge you when you begin to move out of their comfort zone. But success is all about learning to be comfortable in a state of discomfort. And so if you find yourself comfortable, you know that you're leaving money on the table. You know you're leaving growth on the table. You know you're not playing full out, especially if you've done sports. About, like, I used to wrestle. It's just like two people out there. It's not a team sport. It's we're not a team, but it's like, if you're already beat in your mind, you're not gonna give them near the match that you're capable of. And so I wrestled people. I did really well in high school, but it was just, where am I at, and how am I? Am I defeated before I get on the mat, or am I just gonna just rev myself up? Another thing here is the story you say, but pay attention to what comes out of your mouth. Because you begin to influence your mind based on what it hears, especially if it's from yourself.
Yeah.
You gonna say something?
No. So I'm just agreeing with you. And I think that where you said, understand where you are and look at, is this where I want to be or not where I want to be? And I would add to that, which I think you're alluding to, where is there truth in what I'm feeling? Because there's going to be at least some partial truth. But where am I exaggerating, or where am I making assumptions? Where am I taking myself to an unhealthy place with this little kernel? We all have them. We all have mistakes. We all have trauma. We all have whatever. And am I taking that to a place that doesn't need to be? So it's very interesting what you're saying, and seems very important.
Yeah. And it's like, another thing to do is fill your mind not with failures, but fill your mind with success stories. Maybe in a trade pub, but I'm into coaching because I'm going to help them get that different perspective. My coaches will help transform their perspective so they're ready to play ball. And I believe it enough that I've got 4 coaching organizations that we've hired for our coaching organization right now to help us out with different things, because I want to get experts in areas that can really help me go. And so if you're having a real rough time with going in the sewer with your mind and just getting beat up, and you're just overwhelmed with anxiety or fear or whatever, hire somebody just to talk you off the ledge and start building you up and saying, we need to have all of you come out and play. Your business is waiting for a full ass effort. You're only giving it a half ass. Come on, we can do that. So it is that, but also I mentioned this earlier. Another step is really important here is don't get a grandiose plan. Get a simple plan and begin to implement it, but know you're going to come into a level of discomfort and learn to get comfortable with discomfort. There's a great book that was written by Dr. Cohen, and it's kind of like your instincts are killing me, or my instincts are killing me. And it talked about the anxiety and the different things that happen. He said, the number one skill to succeed in the 21st century, he said, is learning to be comfortable in a state of discomfort. Very few things change in a state of comfort. And that's why in presentations and my coaching, and sometimes I will purposely create discomfort for them to have a position either to resist it and shut down and back out, or to say, man, it's time for you to embrace it. Take a step towards confident. Well, I'm going to wait till I'm confident. Well, confidence doesn't come, confidence comes after you commit to do something. I'm kind of quoting a Dan Sullivan thing. You have the courage to stay with it and try it until you develop a capacity, and then confidence comes as a result of you doing things bad until you do them good.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Tim, I would love to keep going, but I want to close this out. You have 400 5-star Google reviews. That's not something many people have. If they want to learn more about you or more about your book, The Power to Create, where should they go?
Well, they can go to redmondgrowth.com, REDMOND. And what I'd like to do is anybody that says, hey, I love Dave and love his podcast, I will say, email me directly, Tim@Redmond Growth, or go to the website and fill it out and says, hey, I love Dave. I was on his podcast, listening to the podcast. What we've got for anybody that wants to is we will provide them, if they say they love you, we'll provide them a growth plan where we look at their business strengths and weaknesses. We look at the capacity, what their business is capable of right now with whatever staff or whatever their market shows. That's going to move mountains right there. Then we take a look at 3 years of where you want to be based on this new capacity model. And then we build concrete steps to get there. Many times 8 or 10 concrete steps you can implement yourself, or, we're in business now. We're a do-it-for-you coaching company, so we'll do a lot of the work for you. But we normally charge $2,500 for that, because most businesses, it'll add $100,000. Just doing that growth plan, it'll add $100,000 of additional profits in the next 12 months. So we're going to waive that $2,500 fee for your folks here. If they email me or they go on, fill out one of the contact forms on the website, or get a hold of us in some way and says, I'm with Dave, we'll waive the $2,500 growth plan. We'll do the growth plan for them. It's a new way of looking at your business. I've never had anybody say that was a waste of time. It's very powerful.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I really appreciate your insights today, Tim. Hope our paths cross again sometime soon. And I will, personally send out your offer to some of our clients too, just to make certain they're aware of it. Sounds like a great way to go.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being with us. If you liked the episode with Tim, please subscribe, leave us a comment or a rating. Love to hear from you. Pass this on to others. Hey, there were some great tidbits there. And he offered you a $2,500 value free. You can't go wrong. So please do that and stay tuned. We got more great guests coming, but bye for now.